Today I'm going to point out something that happened back in 1995 that changed Goofy forever. Yes, that Goofy.
Gosh.
It's something you most certainly overlooked. Then I'm going to roast the critics and audiences who hated a Goofy movie. And finally, we'll end with a game where you have to guess what movie the critic is referring to. All that and more coming up. A Goofy movie is my all-time favorite Disney animated movie. It absolutely beats out The Lion King, Aladdin. It's neck to neck with Hercules, but still it's a fraction better. And yes, I know it's not an official Disney animated classic, but do you see who's running the company right now?
Hey, I'm a retard.
I am not about to let that dirtwad tell me what is and what's not a Disney movie. But I want to point something out that I noticed even as a kid watching this movie. I think it came out when I was in 5th grade. It stuck with me every single time I watched this movie, which is close to 100 times. This one quick scene that if you blink, you miss it. I've always thought to myself, it changes everything. For decades, Goofy was invincible. He was the walking cartoon definition of pain doesn't matter. You can run him over, push him off a cliff, shoot him up into the sky, smash him like a pancake. No matter what you do, he's going to spring back to life, not unlike our friend Wile E. Coyote. Stick his finger in a socket and he's going to give you that classic Goofy yell. But then, in 1995, when I saw a Goofy movie for the first time, everything I knew about Goofy changed. A Goofy movie gave us a Goofy that hurts. And I'm not just talking emotionally. Yes, we've all seen his heart break in that movie, but there is a very specific second in this movie that changes Goofy forever. It's the scene when Pete's RV pulls into the camp and he springs his door open and it bonks Goofy on the head.
Say something, Max. Ow!
That's right. He says ouch, not look or grosh. He just says ouch, like a human being, like a mortal. Before a Goofy movie, Goofy was immortal. Anything could happen to him. He was a walking cartoon physics experiment. He was a joke machine, a physical comedy god who lived in a world where consequences didn't matter. Hell, even Roger Rabbit admired his tolerance for pain.
Boy, did you see that? Nobody takes a wallop like Goofy. What timing, what finesse, what a genius!
The point is, you never once worried for Goofy. But that ouch in a Goofy movie, that changed everything. That wasn't just a door to an RV. That was a door to realism, to consequences. It was a door to vulnerability. It was Disney saying, what if Goofy could actually feel pain? That single syllable, ouch, told us that this wasn't the same Goofy we'd grown up to know. Now, this was Dad Goofy.
Morning, son.
This was road trip Goofy.
Why don't you just give me the map?
Oh, no thanks, son.
Father of the Year Goofy. This was widower Goofy, a man who had lost his wife and is now strapped with the responsibilities of raising his son on his own. For all we know, he was still grieving at the time of a Goofy movie. This was a Goofy with worries, fears, anxieties, stress, pain, tears. This was a Goofy with a functioning nervous system. For the first time, we saw Goofy have more in common with Mufasa than with Donald Duck. In that moment, Goofy stopped being the indestructible slapstick force of nature and started to just be a father that all of us men can connect with. And for the movie itself, it also set him up as a character that could actually be in mortal danger. It's funny, but it's kind of brilliant. A Goofy movie needed a mortal Goofy in order for the film to be as impactful as it ended up being. So when he and Max are in that river trying to get away from the waterfall, we knew that at that moment, he actually could die. If Max hadn't saved Goofy, he would have been dead. Like, that's kind of weird to think about. That Goofy actually could have been killed off in his own movie. It needed a Goofy who could feel hurt, both emotionally and physically, in order for the movie to connect with its older viewers and to transcend generations. You can't feel empathy for a character who feels no pain. And this was a Goofy we were meant to relate to, not just laugh at. That ouch was the first crack in that cartoon armor that made room for a little bit of heart. And here's the thing, after that movie, Goofy actually never really went back to the way he was. Post a Goofy movie, Goofy became more grounded. Sure, he still did dumb things just like I do and every other dad does. But this was a Goofy who got tired and worn out and anxious and sad. He basically just got a whole lot of dad energy.
Everybody mambo. Boom, 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 boom.
Dad, come on, there's no time for this. What if the neighbors see us?
Now, I can't speak so much for an extremely Goofy movie. The straight-to-video sequel, I have never sat through it. But my kids did watch those, like the cheap CGI Mickey Mouse Christmas shows. And the one where Max, he's in college and he introduces Goofy to his girlfriend. And I'll admit, whenever the Goofy and Max segments came on, I sat down and watched. I've always enjoyed following their stories. And even in those, they keep Goofy surprisingly grounded. I love that little cartoon because I just relate to it so much. He has such a love for his kid that he makes Danny Tanner look like the devil. That one ouch hit harder than that RV door ever could. It shifted the character forever. The gloves may have stayed on, but the cartoon armor certainly came off. So, the next time you watch a Goofy movie, and I hope it's soon, pay attention to that one little moment where Goofy says, ouch, because that was the day Goofy became mortal. So now that age-old question of whether Goofy is a dog or not can be put to rest, because according to a Goofy movie, Goofy is the most human of the sensational six. So let me know what you think about Goofy being mortal. And yes, I know he stops living as soon as the artist stops drawing him, so you could keep that sass out of the comments. But now let's move on to roasting the critics and audiences who hated a Goofy movie. If you look up a Goofy movie on Rotten Tomatoes, you'll find that the critics gave it 64%, the audience gave it 71%. Now, obviously, those scores aren't high enough, but I do remember a time not many years ago when the scores were significantly lower, and I do remember the critic score being down to like the 30s. But I think that's a testament to how generational this movie is. Because a lot of the kids that grew up watching the Goofy movie are now dads themselves, and so they had to go and change the score. And I do think it helps that this year we celebrated the 30th anniversary of a Goofy movie. If you haven't seen the documentary Not Just a Goof, I highly recommend you look it up.
Oh, Dad.
All right, so this first critic, I'm going to go ahead and dive into his entire review. It comes from Steve Rhodes, somebody who works at IMDb. And apparently he was, this is the third part of a trilogy of reviews he was doing about mentally impaired characters. Let's see. So the first one was Forrest Gump. The second one was Dumb and Dumber. Ooh, I'm going to have to bookmark that one because anybody that talks bad about that film is, I'm really going to give him a 1-2. As one who has a good relationship with his son and who understands that it is both quality and quantity of time that matter, I found the cliches a bit hard to take after a while. My 6-year-old and I went together to see the movie. He spent a lot of time staring at Max trying to figure out what his problem was. Well, Max is a teenager. It's a lot of space between 6 years and becoming a teenager. So no, of course he didn't get it yet. As bad as this is, I like to think that Steve Rhodes and his son had the worst falling out in the history of fathers and sons by the time his son turned into a teenager.
You really need to grow up!
He liked a few of the laughs, but overall did not care for the movie that much. He got scared several times of something he could or would not identify. By the possums? I'm guessing, what's, okay.
Who's your favorite possum?
If your 6-year-old son is terrified of something in a Goofy movie, I think the dad is the one with the issues in this relationship.
My son respects me.
He goes on, my guess is that it was the way the son treated the dad and the way the dad was shown as such a dunce. Yeah, I guess Disney owes Steve and his son an apology for making a movie about Goofy while keeping Goofy goofy. Unforgivable. If they felt they wanted to talk about father and son relationships in a cartoon, then make the dad at least a little bit smarter and the teenager just a bit more caring. Yeah, let's just go full fantasy. In fact, let's have them travel across the country with no issues whatsoever. It's just a clean drive straight through, no problems, no conflict. Even back at home, let's have no disputes between neighbors. Let's just have everybody get along. Yeah, so clearly Steve and his son are living in a fantasy world that I think none of us want to be a part of. The character of the girlfriend was unusual and perfect. No, she wasn't. She was just as flawed and awkward as Max. That's what makes it so charming. The little romance between them. They're both just flubbering little idiots, and they're just trying to find a way to connect. So no, she's not perfect at all. She was extremely cute without being suggestive. Bestiality much?
Roxanne!
They drew her with large thighs and dressed her only in shorts. Last day of school is going to be hot. She's going to be wearing shorts. I was personally offended by the stereotyped father and son relationship. Is the stereotyping of father and son in this film actually offensive to anybody? Or did they nail it on the head? All dads are dumb to some degree.
It's for Luke's career day. I thought I'd offer the kids a chance to put their face on my body.
And all kids are going to be disrespectful to their parents. He says, I do not recommend it to anyone, nor does my son. Not like we would listen to his son anyway. I am not sure who the audience for this movie is. Maybe every father and son on the planet? Alex Sandell from Juicy Cerebellum says, Disney quickie without any heart. Are you kidding me? This movie makes me cry harder than The Lion King ever did. Hey, Alex, hell called. They said they have your heart on a spigot. All right, let's move on to the audiences. I think they're more fun to make fun of anyway. JM gives a Goofy movie 1.5 stars out of 5 and says, it's not a terrible movie. Well, your score says otherwise. But it is far from being the unsung classic some people like to portray it as these days. You know, I don't think Aladdin got its own documentary. I still haven't seen a documentary from Tangled, as great as that movie is. But a Goofy movie did. That's saying something. And if people are still talking about this movie 30 years later, that's kind of called a classic by definition. Luke R. gives it 2.5 stars. He says, it's a pretty good childhood movie. My dad loves this movie wholeheartedly. Yeah, well, what about you, Luke? Can you speak for you? And not for somebody else when you review a movie that you watched? We'll end with this one. SD gives it 1 star, says, not sure why this movie has suddenly had a renaissance. It was an alright movie that was practically forgotten about upon release. That's true enough. It definitely was not advertised as it should have been. But now people act like it's a Disney classic. It's not. I'm so sorry, SD, that everybody offended you with their love of something that you can choose not to be any part of. That's all we have for the roasts. Let's move on to the game. All right, the game is pretty simple. I'm going to read a review from a critic, and all you have to do is guess what movie that critic is referring to. I'll give you 3 clues for 3 separate movies. Get your fingers ready to type your answers down below. The first clue is, the plot starts springing serious leaks in the last couple of reels. But this is an unassuming chiller, enthusiastically performed by a young cast of unfamiliar faces. The next clue says, despite a madcap slapstick type of comic conclusion, with no real hope of marital longevity, the film is terribly romantic. And the final clue for the final movie, clue is perfect, chaotic, creative, hilarious, heartwarming, and the best film so far of 2021. You're gonna cry, you're gonna laugh, and you'll do both through the entire runtime. I've seen the film twice and absolutely adore the film. I'm Andy Toy with Beanlight Productions. Thanks for hanging out. Let me know all your thoughts about everything we talked about, and I will see you in the next video.